All right, Rahubat, everyone, we are back live with Malachi's disciples. Again, thanks everyone for tuning in. So yeah, let's continue our discussion about ether, because it's just so powerful and so, what you were saying was so inspiring and powerful. So thank you for that. What I also wanted to ask was, 9 ether, when it's dead, it becomes 6 ether, and when 6 ether resurrects or becomes alive again, it's 9 ether. Is that correct?
Right.
So
Or if 6 ether becomes ghost and
yeah,
then
that.
resurrects again.
So to add on to that concept, scientists say energy is never created or destroyed; it always is.
Right.
Or your soul is ever living; it's always alive. Or atoms. If everything's made out of atoms, how can it live or die? So can you kind of go into the concept of life and death? Is it real, or is that just an illusion? Like, does ether ever die? Does atoms ever die? Does energy ever die?
Well, energy, it doesn't like when we speak of death, right? Death is really like born again. See, because biologically, right, you have atoms and cells in your brain that are not actually dying, but they're going out of existence as they are known to exist at the moment before transformation. You see, so when we're talking about death, we're not actually talking about dying to no more. We're actually talking about transforming into a different existence. So, um, just like if you try to, let's say, kill water, the best thing you would do would burn it, but you would burn the water, right, in a pot or something, but that water would not die. It'll just change its form into a vapor. You see, then that vapor might attach itself to the wall and turn itself into a liquid eventually. So you have not death, you have different levels of existence and different levels of transformation. So with that concept, we would use that because that's an atomic level and we are nothing more than larger organisms. We would apply that same science to the physical reality that we exist today. You understand? So in our death, just like every other atom, cell, or molecular structure, it would change its existence or its formation. So you would disintegrate into vapor, but this vapor is still conscious. See what I mean? We can't think of death of meaning you lose some type of knowledge or intelligence. We won't call it knowledge because it's not gained knowledge from the physical world, but it's a divine knowledge. So it's not like a cell will get stupider if you died. You see what I'm saying? Because cells are actually smarter than what our minds allow us to be right now. See, we do things to damage our temple, to damage our bodies. So we go against the intelligence of our bodies with some of the philosophical and mental things that we decide to do. You see? So the existence on those smaller levels are more intelligent than even we are. And we are using our learned intelligence to build things like ant planes and, mix chemicals and do certain things that people think are great. However, again, it is adverse to our very existence. Therefore, our molecular and atomic structure is much more intelligent than we've grown to be because we took a different direction. Okay. So in death, right, we're not talking about you disappearing like a magic trick almost. It's kind of like from a physical, you go to a vapor. And from a vapor to a liquid, from a liquid back to water. You see? So if you leave the shower on, for example, it'll steam up the bathroom, right? It'll start its process as water, then turn itself into steam, and then turn itself back to water. So you have this water, right, that is electric, okay? And it's able to transform into anything that you put itself into. It puts itself into. It'll transform into it, right? So I'm trying to make the cleanest examples without being too philosophical, because again, as I said earlier, when you look through a microscope and you see that a cell exists a certain way, and then you get a higher resolution microscope and so forth, so you'll see that things repeat itself. I think that's called the Lavar effect or Lazar effect. I forget the name of it, but it's one of those. But this is, again, you just transforming from one level to another back into the flesh. You with me?
Yeah, I follow you. Thank you.
If you don't understand something, I mean, you can ask again. I'll try to clear it up. I'm just trying to give the best example.
Yeah, you've been giving really clear examples, really clearly explaining things. I think that's one of your strengths. You really are able to relate to the people, to the audience, while bringing it back to the topic. You're providing great examples, so thank you for that. So basically, there's not really life and death. It's just different levels of existence, is what you're saying.
Different levels of existence, just like in biology. There's different levels of existence inside of you. You have, your blue blood cells and your white blood cells doing different jobs, but working together. You understand? And these organisms, these bacteria and these cells, uniquely, you need them all, right? But they're able to work together. And that's the key, because if they're able to do it on a biological level, what stops us from doing it on a larger level as we exist right now? And that is when philosophy comes in. That is when the mind has been subject to its own existence or its own ego, right? It created its own, I do what I want, I say what I want, and these type of things philosophically and mentally, and eventually those go again against your creator or your creation and what was ordained on a smaller level. So it was written, because if your cell is behaving a certain way, can't stress it enough, on a smallest level, it will grow to behave that same way. So a lot of these behaviors that we are accustomed to right now has been premeditated by a people that know the workings and the mechanics of the brain. They know which areas of the brain accelerate different moods, right? They know which chemicals, which mixtures are responsible for testosterone and motivation and depression. So when they know these sciences of the brain, right, the best they can do is try to vaccinate in those type of, those type of things that are pretty much ultimately deteriorate the brain. But our minds are so powerful, we're still able to exist the way we exist with a spiritual connection. This is why the mental and the spiritual, they're not so much the same. Your connection to the Most High, it resides so deep that, you can destroy many atoms, it wouldn't matter. And this is why they've done so much up until this day. But the hardest thing to do is to break someone's religion or change someone's diet. You know what I'm saying? Those are like the two hardest things to do because people have become accustomed to them things mentally, right? And that just goes back into the nine ether, making it possible for you to be here today, still with a humble mentality, not with a vengeful mentality. And I want to say it like that because that's how it needs to be understood as a noble science. When you're explaining it scientifically, then yeah, we'll go into balance, right? The nine ethers being the nine noble gases and these type of things. And all that means is if it's noble on that level, if it's balanced on that level, then even on the level that we exist right now, it should be noble. And if it's not, then we're not reflecting that of what we are internally or what we are capable of being. That means we are a matter of six ether. We create atoms when we look at a picture. The moment you say, you probably heard this before from Dr. Africa, real quick, sister. The moment you look at a picture, you become hungry. That moment that you look at the picture, you're creating atoms and chemicals in your system, in your vessel.
Wow.
And we gotta look at it like that because science has attempted to explain these things, but these things are happening at every moment. So every thought, you're creating these type of things. And, these six ether forces, temptation is one of them. It does not necessarily mean some type of sex force. It is a temptation that'll drive you to do something, is a different spirit. That's not your spirit that wants to lead you to destruction. That's some type of created standard of something. You understand?
Yeah. They say, I guess the biggest differentiation I would make is 9 ether beings have a soul and 6 ether beings don't have a soul. Like they're both spirits. We all have a spirit, but not everyone has a soul.
Yeah, I heard Malachi York talk about Dr. Malachi York speak on it before. He said you could be given a soul or you could be taken a soul. And that pretty much goes into what is it called? Intermixing marriages and stuff like that. So soul,
Yeah.
spirit, these type of things exist in the blood. Remember, if this kid is an awesome writer, he's an awesome dancer. He doesn't have to learn these things. It just comes to him because it exists in him. So there's different levels of soul. And levels does not necessarily mean like we're climbing up a ladder. It just means different planes. Right? So you could have the soul in you to want to dance. It might not know how, but you still have that in you. But then you have those where music does not move them. They rather just do something else, So the things around you kind of determine a lot about you. The things that you are attracted to determines a lot about you. This is why they kind of do senses on you and make you answer certain questions because they want to find out how you think about things because you are an electromagnetic entity. So when you're outside, right, and you see chocolate and you say, oh, I want chocolate ice cream. And someone else says, oh, I want vanilla ice cream. There's a reason for that. See, there's a scientific reason for everything. There's a reason why this guy wants the chocolate, and there's a reason why this woman wants the strawberry. And they took the time to find out those reasons. And those reasons go all the way to, again, hereditary and atomic behavior, atomic structure behavior. So now, let me finish this example. So now you like the chocolate ice cream. Now there's other things that attract your attention. We might go somewhere and you like the red car, not the blue car. Now you choose the red car. And the more you go on and continue about life, we begin to mark these things down and say, oh, this lady, and then we'll see if your daughter or your granddaughter likes the same thing as you like to. Then we'll see a pattern there. And we'll see that these things are hereditary. You see what I'm saying? These things are genetic. This is, even if nature, right? Even if nature changes, there's something about you genetically that stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, to not cut off your wisdom, just to add to that real quick, that makes a lot of sense, and what I'm coming to the conclusion is, to what you're saying, the mental and the physical simultaneously work together, because, what you like and what you don't like, that's a mental thought. I like this car, but then it literally is working through your genes as well. So the mental works through the physical, and the physical affects the mental. From my understanding, that's what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Exactly. And the foundation of where that thought came from would mean the most, right? So you can have a heartfelt emotion, and that would be the reason, right? The key word is reason, right? Because you have a heartfelt emotion, you're sad, and you react a certain way to that emotion. You can watch something that upsets you, and then you react to that, what you just watched. So the source, right? The source of your thought to do something nice, right, could have been from the heart. And then the source for you to do something to frustrate yourself could have been from television, right? But the reason would be either the heart or the television. And even if they both the television, well, it depends on what you decided to watch on the television. Do you want to watch something that's going to upset you, scare you, make you feel mysterious, or whatever the case may be? There's a reason why you like scary movies. There's a reason why someone likes action movies. So the key word in everything, in the middle of as above, so below, it would be reason. That would be the connection, right? So, so the highest level, again, the highest level of intellect on this level would be your ability to say, yo, man, we ain't got to fight. I know there's only one piece of bread. Let's see if we can split it down the middle. That's something that an animal is incapable of. You're not going to see two lions make that decision because they have an animal instinct. And just because you see individuals that look like humans does not necessarily mean they are humans. Again, a monkey shares a lot of genes with us, right? Dolphins share a lot of genes with us. And they grow and they evolve differently, and in some cases similar. Like you'll see a gorilla having some type of human attributes to it, right? But we evolve different, and that goes all the way down to the physiology of each particular species in a humanoid fashion. Okay? So you have humanoid looking people who are incapable or lack the ability to reason. They can only think and act upon instinct. You eye for an eye. You kill me, I'll kill you. No forgiveness. You see, you steal from me, I'm gonna steal from you. And with that attitude, it causes the world to be destructive. You see, and that's why we're in the position that we're in now, with governments and politicians and men fighting for land and all over the planet, because they don't have the ability to share. They lack that. You see?
Yeah.
They lack that because of the animals. Go ahead.
Yeah, to not to cut off your wisdom, brother, but to add on to that, the Anunnaki, that, or so-called angelic beings, Neteru, whatever people want to call it, call them, they're apparently so advanced that if you shoot at them, they won't shoot back. If you understand what I'm trying to say with that, like their mental is so advanced that they don't react to those kind of things.
Because once we understood, like in certain references where you read, you can kill the body, you can't kill the soul, or things like this. When you put them in perspective, side by side with some type of science and what's coming out right now, especially, then you understand how much things repeat itself. And if someone was to kill someone, right, they will disrupt those atoms. Those atoms would burst into more atoms. So what happens is that universe explodes and millions and billions of new creations come out of that. You see what I'm saying? And we're so small. Like, again, with that, to put this in context, thinking about how things repeat itself. If that's the case, then we must realize we are only a small molecular structure in someone else's body. If what we're saying is true, which it's proven to be fact already. You see what I'm saying? That when you look into cells with a microscope, it repeats itself. So this must be the case even from our standpoint, looking up, not looking down, but looking up. So there would be no reason to study up when we could just study down and know what's going up. You see what I'm saying? But if we're looking up, then we realize we have white blood cells existing on the planet. We have blue blood cells, right? We have bacteria. We have many different things that all make up this body. And we all have a job to do when it comes to our biochemistry, but we're not doing our jobs. And there are people that are trying to do other people's jobs. And this is why the body of the earth, or this one cell that's in a body of millions of other cells, this one cell called earth is a sick cell, right? Just this one earth is one sick cell out of a billion of cells that exist in a bigger body that could be walking and talking just like you and I are walking and talking right now.
Yeah, that's crazy to think, but that's true. But that actually leads on to my next question, and you touched on it a little bit, but I want you to go more in depth for the audience. What is the Most High to you, and how can we prove the Most High?
Well, that's a good question, and like you said, that was partially answered just now. When we know that all of this consciousness is a noble consciousness, we know that we are not dying at every second, right, in a state of hell or the state of fire at every moment. So we know, because we have the chance to exist and love and be happy, it is a noble creation. Because if you try to blame it on a big bang and say, oh, everything just happened because it happened, well, then if that's the case, it'll just keep on happening and there'll be no existence, right? So things have been put in place so that the sun doesn't burn the whole planet Earth, so that the moon doesn't destroy, so that it doesn't allow the oceans to destroy the whole Earth, right? There's things in place that's making us able to even have a conversation about the Most High. And what is the best thing to do, being the Most High, is to cause a people to speak about their being the Most High. So the mere thought of the question, is there a Most High, it shows that you're speculative and that you're your wondrous mind leads you to know, not believe, but to know there is a bigger existence than you because it's too complex for a human mind to understand. So you have to put yourself in the seat of judgment and say, okay, won't you prove that there's not a most high? And try to use your logical side, your reasoning side, your subconscious mind, unconscious mind. Try to use all the minds you could to prove yourself that there could possibly not be no existence. And then you'll come to your own answer to say, you goddamn right, there's a most high, right? Because it's undeniable. You'll say, ain't no way a person can tell you that there's no most high. Again, because your complex body in the body mechanics and the air that you're breathing, you're not calculating it. You're not distributing how much blood cells are going to your heart, to your lungs. That is done by a supreme consciousness. And your subconscious mind, it's not a subconscious mind to your conscious mind. It's a subconscious mind to your superconscious mind. You see what I'm saying? To the cosmic mind that sends the messages to your subconscious mind that sends the messages to your conscious mind from bottom back up to the top. You see what I'm saying? So the proof of there being a God or existence would be the beauty in your craft. When you look in the mirror and you look at your hands and you look close up to your face and you see the lines and you see the art. It takes, if you was to draw a picture on your own and you was to paint a picture on your arm, you know that took time. You're not going to just throw a can of paint on a picture and see the unique eyes and the mouth and the nose and the ears. And this stuff was crafted. This stuff was taken time with. You see what I'm saying? This is somebody's creation. This isn't just we're not some mutant with 5 legs and, we don't exist like that. We exist in beauty, But there are all these things that exist as simply just organisms, and that's all there'll ever be. So the question should be to self, the rhetorical question to self should be, well, why am I in this form and why are flies in that form? Why are roaches and dogs and cats are in the form that, why am I in this form? What made that difference? What makes that difference? You see what I'm saying?
And not to cut off your wisdom, that's one of the questions, I haven't always been what people, I guess, call spiritual, but ever since I was young, a question I always have for myself is why am I how I look? I just never, I connected with my body, but at the same time, I felt like I was more than just what I look in the mirror. But I was just why was I put into this body, into this family, into this life? Why was I born into this family, in this body? Do you get what I'm trying to say? That's a question I've always asked myself. And you kind of answered it right there. There's a greater, it's not just random. There was a reason for everything.
Right.
And there's that controller or maker or creator of creators, the controller of controllers. Because in a way, we can be controllers, but there's a greater controller.
Exactly.
Of the controller, of the control, of the controller, of the controller. And you can go on and on, but...
On and on.
Wow, that was very powerful how you explained, but I didn't mean to cut you off, but keep going, brother.
That's fine. So,
I guess what else I can add to that is, what do you think about people who says they're God, or they're the cosmos, or they're the Most High? Is that true in a sense, or what would you say about people like that, because we did touch on it in an earlier show. You know, me and Fatima, we talked about the God complex and the ego, and in the earlier show. But if you want to add your input to that.
I would say one thing with the mind, right, is nothing can be true and nothing can be a lie. Everything is. You see, it's a matter of true lies, right? It's the in between. So when we realize that the highest level of our mental capacity, we cannot allow it to escape ourselves, right? We can't allow the brain to look outside of ourselves and place something hiding ourselves without giving it to ourselves, understanding as above, so below, right? So let's say we work in a big building, okay? And we got many bosses that work in this building. And I say, okay, you're the boss of this particular department. You're the boss of this particular department. I got a boss for this particular department, and there's many bosses, right? Then, right? So then nobody is the most high boss, but you have many bosses. And you, as an individual, you're not thinking who else is the boss. You have to be the boss of your department, right? So you, in your particular existence, you have to become your own most high. Not to say that there isn't a bigger purpose or a bigger reason for all of this, but to say the only one that can bring your mental up is you. You see what I'm saying? That's the only one, because if someone leaves a baby in a field, right, nature's not going to raise him. That baby needs to be nurtured, right? So you cannot give the credit to, let's say, a nature. You have to give it to the nature within you, because even nature created you. Now that nature created you, your job is to take care of that baby. Not to say, oh, thanks nature for creating me. Now I'm going to put babies out in the sun so that you can raise it. You know, you have a job to do as your existence. So you are the most high in your existence, if you get what I'm saying. If you get what I'm saying. Let me try to give you one more example.
Yeah.
Let me try to give you one more example. Right? Because the only way we know that there is a higher power is because it's obvious. And that proof is our existence, because we're even talking about it. Right? If there was no speculation about it, then it wouldn't even be a thought. You understand what I'm saying? Because it is a thought to being questioned, that's a reason for that. So there's a reason why we're having a discussion about the Most High. And that is because there are things around us that make it obvious that there is a Most High. You see what I'm saying? There are things around us that make it obvious that there's a Most High. But now, where do we fit in the whole Most High project? Now, I'm trying to take my time with this. Now, if something, like I said, universe is repeating itself, right? So at the top of your universe is the bottom of another's. And at the top of that universe is the bottom of another's. If we're talking about, let's say, bubbles being linked, the way bubbles link up.
Yeah.
When you connect bubbles and it kind of just merge into each other, like atmospheres almost. So let's say those are planes of existences, right? What's top to you would be bottom for someone else. Okay? There'll be no left and rights and up and downs and that type of stuff. So I'm looking at it as Um, yeah, go ahead. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, where was I?
About, merging bubbles and looking at it in that perspective.
Yeah, there will be no such thing as top and bottom. Okay, so the most high would be the all, right? And the all being is as in existence, because you can never explain something that is. Because once you begin to explain it, you go on the other side you go to the adjective side. You're no longer talking about what is, you're trying to explain that which is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be the prime. Here's a prime example. Okay, you have a primary source. Let's say the sun. The sun is doing what the sun does best. The sun is doing what the sun is conscious of doing as its own individual existence, right? Now we could do one or two things. We can study the sun and what the sun is made out of, or we can study the sun as what it is and what makes it up, or we can study the sun and its positions and how we can utilize the sun. You see what I'm saying? So studying the sun will be
Yeah.
pointless, because the sun is doing what the sun does,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're putting yourself behind the sun instead of using the sun, trying to understand the sun rather than knowing what it does and just using it. And that's what scientists does. That's what people do a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of studying themselves, they want someone else to tell them about themselves, right? And that's what keeps you from answering your own questions, because as
Yeah.
long as you're going outside of self to get an answer, you're placing yourself on the explanation side when you are the explanation of the sun without any spoken words.
Mm-hmm. And what, not to cut off your wisdom, brother, but what my Emperor Ani also says too, like, these scientists and philosophers, a lot of times what they do is they just think. They think, and just like that one, like, I think it's like a Greek or Roman statue of that, it's called like the thinker. Like, they're just sitting down thinking how the tree was made, why the tree was made, how the sun was made, why the sun was made.
Right.
And they just kind of, they're just idling, like they're just not really doing anything, just thinking. There's no action, like you said. Learn how to, instead of just thinking, you just go in circles and circles and circles, just trying to think about how everything happened and finding a reason for everything, instead of just accepting it as it is, and utilizing that sun's power, utilizing the tree's power, becoming the
Exactly.
Netaru, nature, being part of nature, you know. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to add that part in. But we have about 5 minutes left. Anything else you want to add? You can finish your thought, or you could talk more about your YouTube, anything that's going on, anything else you want to add or want the audience to know. You can go ahead.
Yeah, let me just put it in conclusion to say, we are the nine ether science, and what Dr. York did and what many others did is they attempted to just prove it. They done proved it already. So now that it's been proven, we know that we are who we are and not always who they say we are. So just being applied science, we don't have to study or worry so much about what the science is. When you're reading the holy tablets and certain information and it's talking about the science, that science is pertaining to self, right? It's proven a melanite's existence. It's not just theoretical science, planets, places, and things just randomly being spoke about. So when you're reading it, just know that science is talking about your genetic makeup, right? That is your biological genetic makeup as a melanite being. That is your physiology, all right? Well, no matter who you could be talking about, other existences, they have their own physiology, and you can also read their biological makeup and their physiology throughout that book as well. You know what I'm saying? And many others. But if you want information is there. And just know that, it's about behavior. You don't have to know what's happening on an atomic structure to look through a microscope. We never had to use telescopes or microscopes. We can look at a person's behavior and say something's going on with them mentally. If they've been losing weight over the past couple months, something must be causing stress on them. We can tell these things by using our pure awareness and our consciousness that we have access to. We don't need tools and all them type of stuff to tell when someone needs our help or someone needs a hug or someone, simple stuff like that. Right, that's just inclusion. We are the science, pretty much.
Definitely. Wow, that was very powerful. Again, thank you so much for being on our show. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no problem. And to the audience, make sure you check this brother out. He's on YouTube as Malachi's Disciples. He comes out with videos almost every day. Very engaging, very knowledgeable, lots of wisdom there. So make sure you check him out. And, make sure you follow us on WAEO Radio as well, on our YouTube, our speaker, Facebook, Instagram. We're on all those. So make sure you check us out on there. And yeah, we'll be having a new interviewee next week. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for Temple of Ma'at Raid throughout the week with me and Fatima, playlists, health shows, all that good stuff. And yeah, thanks everyone. Wadu.
Wadu.